Jeff, can you remember when you basically first started, like what you would consider your first serious approach to like a nutrition program?
Absolutely. So my first, I was a very skinny kid growing up, still skinny right now. You know what I mean? So I wanted to get big, obviously, right? So I started doing 5x5 strength training programs, and I wanted to get more into nutrition. I realized that one, I wasn't recovering properly, and I was lifting way too heavy, right? So I bought this bodybuilding kind of template offline from this guy from Canada. I can't remember his name, but it was just all like breakfast oatmeal. You put the flaxseed in there, and they're trying to have the healthy fats, and it was just very bland stuff. I ate so much food that I had, distress in my gut wise. Like I wasn't eating that much protein, and I think at the time I was doing like 2 grams per pound, just something outrageous. Really bad distress in my gut. It took me a long time to kind of understand, like, okay, you're overeating, you're pushing it. You don't have the enzymatic process to kind of digest all this and use it. And I was just, I was full all the time. I was bloated and I just didn't feel good. My joints were inflamed. And it took me a while to realize that I wasn't really eating for my body and my goals. And then the types of food as well. So being able to dial down like better meats, better health sources, all of these things. And it took me like 3 years of this kind of like slow, and dude, not to be TMI, but with all the protein, and I was drinking protein shakes, mass gainers,
Same.
Very bad. No one would probably want to sleep with me in bed overnight.
Yeah, it creates a huge amount of GI distress.
Yeah.
Our body's just not built to do that.
And I was eating things like Greek yogurt that weren't agreeing with me, but Greek yogurt's got protein in it. So I was just doing all of these things that were not agreeing with me, and I was recognizing it, but still like, I'm trying to gain muscle, bro. Like, like trying to get the calories in.
There was only so much information that was out at the time, right?
This was a while ago.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So you have to kind of give yourself some credit there. You were working with what you had.
Exactly, which was not a lot of the time. I mean, I think Jim Stepani was one of like the highest guys, which, I mean, wow.
Yeah, but that's a good point. I mean, you don't really know, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so you try to latch on to certain things. But I don't think there's a shortage of information out there. It probably wasn't even then. It was just you were trying to use somebody else's guide or template.
For sure.
To get it done. We've all been there. I mean, Taylor, what about you? I mean, what was like your first, like, I guess, introduction into, I really need to take this nutrition thing seriously, and I need to have more of a programmed approach to this. What'd you do?
Yeah. So for me, it was back in high school. I was always super skinny in middle school, and then puberty hit. And so then in high school, by like sophomore year, it was a little chunky on the edges. And my dad was like really into P90X at the time. Yeah. And so there was one version of P90X that came with a nutrition program. And do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't, but I want to learn more.
So it was like talking about like how, proteins are important, nutrient dense foods are important. And so I was introduced to nutrition through nutrient density. And so anything that came out of a package, pretty much anything that was processed that had no nutritional value, I should not have been eating. Mm-hmm. We had also cut out like breads and potatoes and starches and things like that. And we were eating honestly almost paleo at the time without it even being a thing yet. Okay. So that was my first introduction, and the weight started to come off. My performance started to go up in sports and everything, and so that was kind of my first introduction to, hey, when you put good in, you get good out. And so I was seeing pretty good results for a while, but I very, very quickly realized how unsustainable it was when I got to college.
Yeah, those are the big takeaways, right? Like you see a result, like you may have even put on weight, Jeff, when you were doing that, but at the same time, you feel like shit.
It was horrible.
Yeah, you feel like shit, and you smell like shit, is what you're alluding to, right?
Literally. Dude, like, wow. If you farted, it would stay there for like 30 minutes. Yeah, you'd walk away, come back, like, oh my God.
Look, I mean, that's a really good indication that what you're doing isn't working for your body very well. Like, I mean, while that is a very natural process, it isn't TMI, and these are things that we talk about that you should be aware of, both as a participant in whatever program you're doing or however you're approaching your nutrition, but also obviously as a coach. These are questions that we ask sometimes.
Because I'm at 1.2 right now.
And you're fine.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's, so.
You learned the hard way about individuality and nutrition.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think, so that's for me, growing up, like there was never any shortage of healthy food around the house, right? Like my mom and my dad always encouraged us to make sure, we ate our vegetables and we cleaned our plates and things like that. And it was very healthy. And it actually evolved over time. My mom got like more aware of putting healthier food on the plate as we started to get older as kids. And There's never like, I'm not eating that. My mom would make us fucking, hot dogs and mac and cheese if she had made like, pork chops and vegetables and whatever else. No, this is what we're eating tonight. Like, and I think that's a thing. Like that helped me in terms of instilling like, hey, these are the foods that we should be eating. Also, like, this is mealtime, and you sit down at mealtime and you have these meals with your family, and that's not everybody gets that. I feel really fortunate to have had that, and then also respect where the food is coming from. And I don't want to get all into that, but I will say, like, I had this like connection to food as a kid. Like, I understood where it was coming from, but at the same time, I was hungry, right, as a kid. So I would eat. Like, you put food in front of me, I was going to eat. It's never an issue. And as a result, I was a chunky kid. I didn't start kind of growing out of the chunk till I got like into like, I don't know, I guess I was probably like 13, however old you are, about 8th grade. Mm-hmm. I started to finally kind of, maybe start to turn into a man. I was definitely a late bloomer, but that is the exact same time that my dad really introduced me to the weights. He was heavy into the weight training when he was younger. And so, just like you, Jeff, I was the kid that was turning into a man, and I wanted to be jacked, right? And dad had some muscle on him, and, and I recognized at the time he'd been my dad my whole life, and I'd never really, but the other kids my age would come over, they'd see my dad and go, damn, dude, dad's jacked. Like, that's just my dad. Like, I don't know, but then it started to dawn on me like, well, I want to be jacked too, so I should be eating differently, right? And what do I need to do? Well, I had every magazine known to man, including every muscle and fiction magazine there was. Flex, Muscle and Fitness.
Like that thick.
Oh, dude, there was the days of Bill Phillips that came along a little bit after that, but my dad even had old magazines, and the bottom line was everybody was drinking protein shakes, and Joe Weider was the dude. So yeah, I had like, this is what I did. This is my first introduction to trying to eat like a bodybuilder or whatever. I would start my day. This was my freshman year in high school. No shit. Blender, right? It's about 2 cups of milk, 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 scoops of Joe Weider's powder, which probably equated to somewhere around 50 grams of protein, full banana, nice, like malted milk. So the milk, like malted milk powder. I don't know why the hell I was doing that. Wheat germ. Dude, I was 14 years old, right? And by the time I was done, I had this like 32 or 40 ounce cup of gel, right?
Sludge.
And my mom would drive me to school, and I would just choke this shit down. So, and I would get there, and guess what would happen about an hour later? I'd be like running for the bathroom, and just my gut would be distended and bloated and whatever else. But that's what I thought I needed to do. There was an upside to that, though, in that I was involved in the weight training, and that I was in a surplus, and I was getting plenty of protein, albeit it wasn't the greatest way to do it. But I did learn, like, when you eat more and you eat more protein and you keep your carbohydrate up, I was playing football, I was wrestling, I was track and field, I was all that stuff, I was super active. I was putting on muscle, right? And I was eating lunch. Mom was sending me with the bag lunch, again, those same foods that I just mentioned. So that was kind of my introduction to it. But I did get to a point in my life where I recognized, like, I'm going to have to get more specific here if I want a specific result. And I did all the research I thought I could do. And I ultimately hired a coach, and that's when things changed. And this was a bodybuilder, so things were a little bit more biased, but I finally hired a coach, and that changed my life. And quite frankly, it's the thing that led me to where I am now in the industry because of the impact that she had on me and the immediate change that I saw. But it was a real wild, like, no, this is what those guys are doing. I forced myself to be miserable constantly, much like you did, Jeff, because this is what everybody told me I was supposed to do, right? This is what the magazine said. This was way before the interwebs, man. Yeah. So like every month you just wait, you knew when that new magazine hit the stand down at the 7-Eleven, you were down like, what's this dude doing now? Oh, that's how I need to eat. Yep. Right. And that's what he did. And you know what? I don't think that's too different for a lot of people now.
Yeah, I feel like everybody's first like initial introduction to nutrition is always a little bit messy.
Yeah. And so, with that messiness comes some experience, and the experiences are valuable.
For sure.